right. Hello, everybody. Hope you are doing well. We certainly have a lot to talk about today. Glad to be joining you live in my beautiful studio, basement studio, more like it. But hope you are all doing well. Glad to see all of you. We already have quite a few people in the chat. Great to see you, Randy, David, Douglas, Joanne, Margaret, Scott, and so many more. Glad you're all here. Glad you are joining us. So we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about some prophetic things. With everything going on right now, it seems like this major convergence of a lot of different things, and it has some people wondering if this is end times birth pangs heading us straight to the tribulation. Well, just the way that math works, I mean, every second that we go forward into the future, we're a second closer to tribulation, whatever. However that pans out, we will have to wait and see if we're still here. Hopefully not. But there's a lot of different opinions about that. But there are even some people asking the question: are we in the tribulation now? I don't think so. I don't think this is the tribulation. Now we are living through tribulations, and we're going to talk about some of those today. But we know from the words of Jesus that we were promised that we were going to have to suffer some tribulations. So I want to talk about today some recent developments with Yellowstone Supervolcano, which, man, if that thing erupts, if that goes off now, would just be the worst time imaginable for it. We got to talk about that. There's an unprecedented number of locust plagues hitting the Middle East and other areas around the world right now, which, of course, contribute to famine and things like that. So we have to talk about that. And then I also want to talk about what these things are biblically. Pestilence, plague, famine. Believe it or not, there's actually quite a few times in the Bible, specifically in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament as well. We're definitely going to be looking in to the book of Revelation, but where these things, some people are saying that they have lost the feed. Let me know in the chat. Are you guys seeing me okay? If you're seeing me, let me know. But we'll keep it going. There is a second YouTube channel. You can also view this on Facebook if you're having trouble viewing it anywhere else. I'm also viewing it on Twitter at JP Disclosure. I'm doing it there, so you can check it there. Hopefully the feed comes back soon. Let me know in the chat if you're able to see me. I did see on my side the numbers went down drastically. So, all right, got a couple people saying that it's back on. I hear you, see you. Okay, good. Well, basically, just to kind of recap what I was saying, we're going to talk about the supervolcano and under Yellowstone. There's been some recent developments with that. We're going to talk about these locust plagues that are coming across the world, and then we're going to talk about what these things mean biblically. There's a lot of times in the Bible that it talks about pestilence, plague, and sometimes it's referring to false gods. It's referring to ancient gods that were venerated long ago. So let's see. It looks like some people are saying they're still having trouble viewing the feed. I wonder. Let me try doing this. I don't know if it's going to let me, but I'm going to try and see if I can change the settings while we are broadcasting. And let's see what happens there. Yeah, sorry about that. You're back, but it keeps going in and out, catching most of it. All right, thank you. Let's see. Looks like I can't change many settings while it's going live. All right, well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna run with it. Some other people are saying that it's working great. This is running live right now on 2 YouTube channels. There is the main Daily Renegade channel, which is youtube.com/Josh Peck Disclosure DR. You can view it there. Or the second channel on YouTube, it's Daily Renegade 2.0, which is youtube.com/JPD Weekly. You can view it there, or you can find me on Facebook. I am broadcasting this on Facebook and also on Twitter. So my Twitter handle is at JP Disclosure, if you want to find me there. And it looks like we're also broadcasting on DLive and Twitch, but I don't know what my URLs for those are, so I can't help you there. But Facebook should be running fine if you want to view. Now I don't think with Facebook you can do the chat, so hopefully YouTube will cooperate. All right, Greta is saying it's working now. Exit, then come back in. A couple other people are saying that it's fine. Terry is saying that she had to re-enter. If you're having trouble viewing it, just close out, go back to YouTube, reopen it, try it again. Sometimes it takes a few minutes for YouTube to kind of catch up with these live streams. It's part of the reason that I don't love this new system of live streaming through encoders and all of that stuff. Somebody else is saying that it's fine, it's working fine now, and I am seeing the numbers start to go back up. Somebody's saying that Twitter is working fine, so that's good. Starting to see some of the numbers go back up, so that's good to see. Hopefully we don't have any problems. Somebody's saying got you on YouTube now. All right, and then Minnie Mo is asking, can we talk about the Rapture too? If things are going as badly as now, I'm praying for not going through. Yeah, we can probably talk about the Rapture, and we're gonna have a Q&A at the end too. Lev is saying, good evening, Josh. Lily here from Texas. Hey, good to see you again, Lily. I remember you from earlier this morning on Into the Multiverse. We finally had an Into the Multiverse episode, and I was in there chatting with you guys as Daily Renegade. So good to see you back. And I think we can get started with this now, and hopefully YouTube will cooperate. But again, if not, looks like Twitter and Facebook are doing okay. So part of it too might be your internet connection. So a lot of people, because of the quarantine and all the coronavirus stuff, a lot of people are online, and that can bog things down. So we'll just keep going, and we'll just see how it goes. We did one of these a couple of days ago. I want to do these more often. I don't know about doing them every day. I would love to, but it's just a matter of trying to find the time. And so I was thinking about doing one yesterday, but it was also April Fool's Day, and I didn't want anyone thinking that whatever I had to say would have been like a joke or something. So we didn't want to do that. So I decided to wait until today, but yeah, so I don't know how often we're gonna do this, but I'm gonna try to do it. I'm gonna try to do it more often. Somebody is saying lower video quality, guys. Yeah, so if you're viewing on YouTube and having trouble, you can actually click on the settings and you can lower the video quality, and that should help as well. Thank you, Minimo. So we're gonna be doing these live streams, and every couple of days or so. There's some other updates from with dailyrenegade.com, which we'll get to that later. Hello, Audrey RV. Couldn't say your name for a minute there. How's it going? So let's get to it, and then we'll talk about some Daily Renegade updates and stuff later on. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is actually a story that for some reason won't come up on my web browser. I do have it up on my phone. It's working on my phone for some reason. But we can get to a couple others, and then we'll deal with the phone one, because me reading from a phone just isn't as interesting. But yeah, so like if you're seeing the screen share here, this is what I'm getting for this that website, that web page for some reason. But again, like I said, I do have it on my phone, so we'll talk about that. But we can talk about this having to do with Yellowstone. So there's an increased risk warning after scientists pinpoint a magma intrusion. And like I said before, this would just be the worst time in the world for this thing to go off. We've actually been due for some kind of eruption for quite a while, apparently, at Yellowstone. The Yellowstone Supervolcano, and it would be pretty devastating. So with everything going on with the coronavirus and Locust plagues in the Middle East, some people are wondering, is this thing going to go off now? I mean, it just seems like this convergence of prophetic birth pangs are happening. So is this something that could happen? Well, there have been some developments with it. So Yellowstone researchers have warned there's an increased risk of hydrothermal explosion at Steamboat Geyser after pinpointing a body of magma that intruded below Norris Geyser Basin years ago. Now, this is just one of a couple things that we're going to look at, because there were some earthquakes, and there's a new discovery that hints that the super eruption could happen sooner than originally thought. So we're going to start with this, and we'll get to a couple other warning signs. But scientists used GPS data to model what may have occurred below the surface to explain why an area near the basin has been inflating and deflating by several inches in erratic bursts for the past 2 decades. Their research, which was published in the Journal of Geophysical Research, revealed a body of magma had intruded beneath Norris in the 90s. As the fluid got stuck and pressure built up, the ground would rise, and then the fluids were able to escape elsewhere, and the ground deflated. So this paper was published back in January, and it reads, quote, "Recent activity has provided new insights into the causes of surface deformation in and around the Yellowstone caldera, a topic that has been debated since the discovery of the caldera floor uplift more than 4 decades ago." So they've been expecting this for quite some time. An episode of unusually rapid uplift centered near Norris Geyser Basin along the North Caldera Rim began in late 2013 and continued until an earthquake on March 30th, 2014. Thereafter, uplift abruptly switched it to subsidence. Split rates of several centimeters per year resumed in 2016 and continued to at least through the end of 2018. So, as we know, earthquakes are a sign of end times. We're told to look for those things, earthquakes in diverse places, and there seems to be some earthquakes around the Yellowstone one. There was another one, too, that we're going to look at, too. And so people have been wondering, are these birth pangs that's going to lead to the final earthquakes that we read in the book of Revelation? And so... my apologies, getting a little distracted because the video does seem to be buffering quite a bit on my end too. So apologies for that. Hopefully this will get worked out. So yeah, that has people wondering, is this going to lead up to something? Now, like I said before, there are a few people that think that we're in the tribulation right now. I personally don't believe that. I don't believe this is the tribulation, but we are going to have to deal with tribulations. Even if the Yellowstone supervolcano were to go off, I wouldn't say, well, that proves that we're in the tribulation. I wouldn't go that far. I would say, well, this is one of many volcanoes that have gone off. Now, granted, the Yellowstone supervolcano erupting would be massive, and it would be devastating on a grand scale, and it would be worldwide turmoil this thing would bring, which is why we have to keep our eyes on it and stay prepared as best we can. Now, with something that big, there's really only so much you can do. I mean, you can move to the other side of the world, I suppose, and then, but it's always good to, have some extra food stored up. And I mean, we should have that anyway because of the COVID-19 coronavirus kind of stuff too. So more recently, there was earthquakes, and it showed that this Yellowstone caldera in North America, that it's actually stretching. So I want to take a look at this. And then we're going to get to the other one as well that, like I said, unfortunately isn't coming up on the web browser, but it's coming up on my phone just fine. So this headline comes from ABC4. It says, "Earthquakes in the Yellowstone caldera, North America is stretching." So it says, first... And this is just a couple of days ago, but it says, first an earthquake in Salt Lake City, then one near Reno, then near Boise, Idaho, and a small shock felt through Yellowstone. The scary thoughts swarm our minds. Are we at the end? Will the Yellowstone volcano erupt? Why do we have a virus and earthquakes? Right? Very good question. Now remember, we're told in Bible prophecy, we're told by Jesus himself that earthquakes in diverse places are something to look for. So we have Salt Lake City, Reno, Boise, and there was a shock felt through Yellowstone. So the question is, could these earthquakes, even though they're relatively small, could they trigger something in Yellowstone? And of course they could, and we, like I said before, we are due for an eruption on this thing. We're actually overdue. We're quite overdue. So it says, as hard as it sounds, it's just a normal part of living on our planet. Now, of course, we live in a fallen world. Earthquakes, volcano eruption, all of that stuff is normal. But it says, we have faced deadly infections and earthquakes before. In 1918, people were asked to distance themselves too. And this is what we talk about when we talk about birth pangs. So that's why I say I don't believe that we're in the tribulation now, but these types of things are birth pangs that are going to happen more frequently with greater intensity as we go on into the future, building up to the return of Christ. Just like a woman giving birth, the contractions happen faster and more intense until the birth happens. So we're given that in Scripture as kind of an example of what to look for with these types of things. And it does seem like they're happening more frequently, more intensely, and more diversely, too, because there's, again, a lot of convergences. There's a lot of convergences happening of different things all at the same time. So just the few that we're going to talk about today, we have coronavirus, so we have plague there, we have pestilence, we have this locust plague thing we're going to talk about in a moment. We have the possibility, we have earthquakes, which could lead to the possibility of volcanic eruptions. And so while these things isolated are nothing new, them happening in this frequency, all this close together, converging like this, it seems to be building up to something. What that something is, we read about it in the book of Revelation, which we'll get into a little bit later. And we're also going to talk about the spirits behind all of this stuff. So it says, in 1918, the Spanish flu spread around the world. Deadly earthquakes hit in China, the United States, the Philippines, and Russia. And on top of all this, we were fighting World War I. So that's a convergence of things that's a birth pang. Now here we are, a little over 100 years later, 102 years, and we're seeing this type of thing again. But it seems a little more intense this time. And the other question to ask is, last time we had World War I, so should we expect a war as well? I mean, there's a lot of things heating up in the Middle East, and there's even we're going to talk about this a little later too. There are Jews in Israel, or Orthodox Jews. Rabbinical leaders saying that they expect the Messiah by Passover. Now, of course, they've been saying that for a long time. I'm not treating that as prophecy, but it's only to say that they are searching for somebody. They're looking for somebody. And the more desperate they get with that, the easier it will be for somebody to take on that role. Now, we as Christians, we ask the question, is it possible that their Messiah that they're looking for could turn out to be our Antichrist? Because we know who the Messiah is. That's why it's our job to go and witness to these people, minister to these people, share with them the love of Jesus Christ. That's our job. But is it possible that an Antichrist figure could assume that role and deceive the world through that? So that's something to keep an eye out for too. But amidst all of that, should we be expecting a war, some kind of new world war? I don't know, but with the convergences that are happening now, especially all the civil unrest in our own country, it wouldn't be surprising. So it says, according to an article posted by Discover Magazine, what is happening now in the western United States is a constant process called continent stretching. The West stretches about a quarter inch a year. Then after so long, normal fault zones slip. When they do, we feel it as an earthquake. All right. And it makes me wonder, how far can it stretch? How far is too far where the thing finally splits open? Again, even scientists say that we're overdue for that. A few years ago, everyone was worried about the Yellowstone caldera, or it was called on television the Yellowstone Supervolcano. Will it erupt now? Can earthquakes cause it to erupt? So ABC4 News spoke with Dr. Keith D. Coper, professor of geology and geophysics and director of the University of Utah Seismograph Station. He explained they monitor Utah and Yellowstone. He told us that there is no obvious relationship with the earthquakes that hit Magna, Reno, and north of Boise. He said it is possible for a big earthquake to trigger smaller earthquakes. Professor Coper Copper explained the Boise earthquake could have caused a wave that triggered smaller earthquakes in Yellowstone, but at this time, there's no evidence that happened. According to a report 2 weeks ago by National Geographic, the caldera has been experiencing a type of pulsing, but new research does not indicate that the supervolcano that created the Yellowstone caldera is more likely to erupt now. The last time it happened was 640,000 years ago. Now, again, there are other scientists, though, and this is what kind of worries me. Well, let's read the rest of it, and then I'll comment on it. But it says, Yellowstone is a complicated area. Besides being volcanically active, with magma thought to be only a mile below at certain times, Yellowstone is seismically active with 700 to 3,000 quakes a year. Most are not felt. 3 years ago, we reported Yellowstone had 900 earthquakes in 2 weeks. But again, like it said, most of these are not actually felt. Earthquakes as far away as the Boise one will not cause the magma in Yellowstone to explode. The article at Discover talks about how our unique terrain in the Rocky Mountains area, our mountains and valleys are all part of a seismic system. The entire region known as the Basin and Range. We are learning more all the time about the process of how the mountains grow and the valleys fall and expand. All right, so we are learning, keep that in mind, we are learning more all the time about the process. That line, and I'll tell you why in a moment, worries me a little bit. Even though it says, so don't worry, stay at home to fight the virus, and even though it's been shaky, with the quakes, remember it's all just the normal way our planet changes, and here in the West we get to see something unique, the process that makes our beautiful mountains and valleys. All right, here's what worries me about this. If there was something happening, and we'll refer back to this line, but if there was something happening, how confident are we that we would be told about that? How confident are we that we would be given the honest truth about it right when they found out? Now, a lot of these people, a lot of time, and we saw this with the coronavirus. A lot of it when things first happen, it gets downplayed because no one wants egg on their face. You know, none of these specialists want to be known as the guy that overreacted. You know, the one that overreacted. So, like, coronavirus is a perfect example of this. When this first hit, everybody downplayed it. Nobody really knew. Everybody was saying things like it's no worse than the flu. You know, we're making too big of a deal about this. That kind of stuff. And now, if anything, now there's criticisms coming from all sides. You know, you still do have some people that say it's not a big deal, but you also have people saying that we're not doing enough. Now, I when it comes to taking away our liberties and rights, I think that is too far. That is an overreaction. But just suffice it to say, they said the same kinds of things at the onset of the coronavirus. We're still learning about it, right? When they were saying that there's no cause for panic, everybody calm down, this is no worse than the flu, we're still learning about it. All right, so that line there, we are learning more all the time about the process. Those kinds of lines, to me, those kinds of sentences make me wonder if it's a face-saving measure. If something does happen, then they can say, well, we said we're still learning about it. We still need to look more into it. We don't really know for sure. We didn't cause a panic, all that kind of stuff. So when they say things like that, and don't worry, that makes me wonder. And especially with this Dr. Keith Coper, again, professor of geology, geophysics. I'm not a professor of anything, so this is just my opinion. I'm not speaking from any kind of inside knowledge or anything like that. When it comes to geology, I fully suspect that this guy's way smarter than I am about it. But when we're told that there's no relationship between these things, almost like no, that's silly, it can't happen. How could that be possible? How could it be possible that an earthquake could not trigger Yellowstone? To me, that makes it sound like he's just trying to save face in case something does happen, or in case it doesn't happen, he doesn't want to cause a panic. He doesn't want to be the guy that overreacts if nothing happens, because that's the type of language that's usually used with that kind of stuff. So that makes me wonder if they did see something, or if there was a cause for some concern. No one wants to be the one to say it first. Because if they're wrong and it doesn't erupt, they'll forever be their career will be tarnished with that false claim, with that overreaction. So nobody wants that. That's what worries me, though. It's because of pride and stuff like that. And so if they did find something, I don't know. I'm not confident that we would be told right away. I'm not confident that the specialists would even accept it right away. I think that most people's attitude is more towards skepticism, which in a lot of areas is healthy. That's fine. But when it comes to, worldwide, global things like this, sometimes it might be okay to have a couple of false alarms if it means that when it does happen that we know right away. You know what I mean? So that kind of worries me. But I have noticed, and you probably noticed it too, that there's been a lot of new reports about Yellowstone in the past couple of years. I mean, it seems like every day, every couple of days, there's some new report about it. So that does kind of make me wonder. And while we're at it, I want to talk about this other story that, again, I have on my phone because for some reason the web browser wouldn't bring it up, so I can't do the screen share thing. But I have it on my phone, and the headline, if you want to look it up, it's Yellowstone volcano: why shock discovery hints at super eruption much sooner than thought. So, and this is, I believe, the most recent article of all the ones that we looked at, or maybe not. This is around the same time. It was just a couple days ago. So it says Yellowstone volcano scientists fear there could be much less time to prepare. Now that's why when the first scientists that we looked at said, this is just normal. It erupted a long time ago. Nothing to worry about. There's a lot of scientists that say we are overdue for an eruption. That this thing erupts every 500,000 years or something like that. And now it's been like 640,000. So, according to them, we could get hung up on the numbers, but just using their number. So they say that it's overdue. So when that guy, Coper, when he said that there's nothing to worry about, he would be aware that there are other scientists that are saying, like, we're overdue for an eruption, and he didn't address it at all. He didn't even bring it up. That's a little suspicious to me. That kind of makes me wonder, like, he had to have been aware of that. Why didn't he mention it? So this article does mention it, and it says that there could be much less time to prepare for the next super eruption than thought. So it says the Yellowstone caldera spreads beneath the states of Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho, and it gets its nickname as a supervolcano due to its ability to inflict devastation on a global level. It is constantly monitored by the USGS for signs that a super eruption is on its way, something that has only happened 3 times in history: 2.1 million years ago, 1.3 million years ago, and 640,000 years ago, leaving some to claim a massive eruption is overdue. So see, even that article states that, because that's what most, from what I understand, from my limited knowledge, that's what most specialists in this field will say. So that is suspicious to me that the scientist Coper didn't mention that at all, and just said, no, everything's fine, this is just normal. Until 2017, geologists thought it would take centuries for the supervolcano to undergo a critical change before an eruption, but after analyzing minerals and fossilized ash from the most recent eruption, researchers at Arizona State University found the supervolcano last awoke after 2 influxes of fresh magma flowed into the reservoir below the caldera. Now, could earthquakes trigger something like that, such as the earthquakes that have recently been happening around that area? So it says the minerals revealed that the critical changes in temperature and composition built up in a matter of decades, not centuries. Now, remember, the last article that we looked at was talking about things happening in like the 90s. And I think one might have mentioned the 70s, but at least somewhere between the 70s and 90s. So that's decades, right? So this could happen in a matter of decades, not centuries. Graduate student Hannah Shamlu said, quote, "It's shocking how little time is required to take a volcanic system from being quiet and sitting there to the edge of an eruption," end quote. Christy Till, geologist at Arizona State and Miss Shamlu's dissertation advisor, added, quote, "We expected that there might be processes happening over thousands of years preceding the eruption." End quote. Carrie Cooper, a geochemist at the University of California, said Ms. Shamlu and Dr. Till's research offered more insights into the time frames of super eruptions, but said, and here it is again, more research needs to be done. See, again, that I'm sure it's true. More research needs to be done. It's good that they're admitting that, but that also makes me wonder if that's one of those throw-in lines that people say so they can save face if something does happen. So to not incite a panic where there might actually be reason to have concern. So that makes me wonder. She added, quote, "It's one thing to think about this slow, gradual buildup. It's another thing to think about how you mobilize 1,000 cubic kilometers of magma in a decade," end quote. So a 2013 study showed the magma reservoir that feeds the caldera was about 2.5 times larger than previously estimated. That was 7 years ago. That was in 2013. That the magma reservoir was 2.5 times larger than previously estimated. So the previous estimation, that's what they were building their models on, turns out 2.5 times larger. So that's a big, I mean, that's a big underestimation there. Scientists thought this was drained out by every blast and took a long time to refill, but the new study suggests the situation can change far quicker, so it doesn't take that long to refill. However, the USGS has previously put minds at ease regarding any overdue claims, because again, of course they will. They don't want to be known as the ones who incited a panic. Yellowstone Volcano Observatory scientist in charge Jacob Lowenstern said in 2014, quote, "When you see people claiming it's overdue, usually the numbers they come up with say the last eruption was 640,000 years ago, but it erupts every 600,000 years." Well, that's 40,000 years overdue, is it not? So then he says, but in fact, you average the eruption intervals. There's 2.1 million to 1.3 million, then another 640,000 years ago. If you average those numbers, you come up with something that's over 700,000 years. So in reality, even if you make this argument, it wouldn't be overdue for another 70,000 years. But why are we averaging the numbers? You know, if you have something that, you know, if you have an occurrence, long time passes, another occurrence, still a long time, but not as long as last time, another occurrence. Again, we're talking about birth pangs. We're talking about things that happen more frequently and with greater intensity. So yeah, you can play with the numbers and say that it's not overdue, but you're throwing out a big piece of this puzzle, which is that these intervals are happening in shorter and shorter time periods. You know, they're shorter and shorter intervals every time it happens. Which, if you take that into account, then that would mean we're way more overdue than we even thought, right? So, you know, he's saying, and this I really believe is like what I was talking about. He doesn't want to be known as the guy that incited panic, but he's averaging the numbers for no reason. There's no reason to do that. You know, it hasn't been shown that we should average numbers like that. If things occur in shorter time intervals, you got to factor that into your prediction. If you don't, your prediction is going to be off. So that and I'm unfortunately, I wish that article could come up on the screen so you'd be able to see it. But unfortunately, it's not. So that gives me reason to be a little concerned about it, and probably you too. So we have to keep our eyes on it. We will certainly do that here. Something else that's happening are these locust plagues, which I'm sure you guys have probably heard about. But this is another thing that they say. They say it is, you know, it's normal. This happens all the time. But it makes me wonder how many of these specialists are just averaging the numbers when these things are happening with greater intensity more frequently. You know, you average the numbers and you're going to throw the whole thing off. So it makes me wonder if they're doing that with these locust infestations too, because we just reported on one a couple of months ago, and I think before that, a few months before that. I know locust plagues in general are a normal thing, but is it normal for them to be increasing in intensity and frequency in shorter time intervals if that's what's happening? And it certainly seems like it is. So there's some stories about this that I wanted to look at with you guys. This comes from weather.com. Unbelievably large swarm of locusts threatens the Middle East. So a locust plague that's been growing in the Horn of Africa this month is slated to make its way across northern Africa and the Middle East, and the likes of which have been unseen in the region for over 30 years. All right, so that's weather.com saying that. That just dispels that this is just some normal thing. This is not normal. The likes of which have been unseen in the region for 30 years. And this is only the locust plague. It's never been seen in a convergence with some like a worldwide pandemic. Well, that's kind of redundant. Pandemic is worldwide by definition. But in convergence with a pandemic such as coronavirus, with some earthquakes that are happening now, having that frequency of things, I don't know if we've seen that since biblical times. So it really is unprecedented. In the last month, the locusts have devastated crops in Kenya, Ethiopia, Somalia, and the swarm is still breeding. By the way, I want to mention we have a lot of Christian brothers and sisters there. Keep them in prayer. Pray that God will provide for them. Locust plagues destroy crops and cause major agricultural devastation. Leads to famine and starvation, which in turn can kill populations. Now that sort of sounds like, Book of Revelation, that it's going to kill with plague, pestilence, and death. I mean, this stuff can kill populations, like it says. Locusts in Kenya, Ethiopia, and Somalia have been breeding at an unprecedented rate, these locusts. This represents, quote, an unprecedented threat to food security and livelihoods at the beginning of the upcoming cropping season, end quote, according to Locust Watch, a monitoring division of the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, which provides emergency assistance to countries facing desert locust invasions. So even they are saying this is unprecedented. The locust plague is already the worst in Kenya in 70 years and in at least 25 years for other parts of the region. These swarms can move up to 90 miles a day, can eat their weight daily. The current swarm eats as much as 35,000 humans would eat a day. that many humans would consume. The locust swarm strips all vegetation in their path, threatening the food supply for millions of people. The desert locust threatening the region is the most destructive migratory pest in the world, according to the Locust Watch website. Experts say that the swarm is projected to go as far east as Pakistan in the coming months. It will begin descending upon in the next month, coinciding with the Jewish holiday of Passover, which we're going to talk about from an Israeli source in just a minute. But yeah, it's coinciding with Passover, which celebrates, among other things, the biblical 10 plagues in Egypt, one of which was locusts. Is this just a coincidence that all of this is happening right around Passover? And again, I'm not saying that this is the repeat of the plagues that we see in the book of Revelation, but what I'm saying is I believe it's a birth pain. That it's an example of that. It's something that's leading to that, and this is probably the most severe one that we've seen since the times of ancient Egypt in the Bible. There are setbacks to the locust management plans. Aerial spraying is the most effective way to stop locusts, but aid agencies say that there's not enough equipment or funding to adequately beat down the swarms. The setbacks are being exacerbated by the global actions taken to curb the spread of COVID-19. So again, we have this at the same time as COVID-19 is happening, and at the same time as these earthquakes are happening, and at the same time that some geologists are wondering if Yellowstone is going to erupt, and other things as well. So it's a very strange convergence. Experts can no longer travel to in-country meetings to train locals to combat the locust threat, according to Rome-based senior locust forecasting officer Keith Cressman on Monday. Cressman, who has worked... excuse me one second. Cressman, who has worked with the organization for over 3 decades, told the Times of Israel on Monday that the previous time that the region has been in such danger was during the plague of 1987 to 1989. Studies have linked a hotter climate to more devastating locust swarms, leaving Africa disproportionately affected. 20 of the fastest warming countries globally are in Africa. And so, of course, there's that. And, of course, that's going to, that's going to spur on the climate change debate, which I don't want to get into in this that's a whole other show. But speaking of the Times of Israel, let's look at what they have to say. Plague of locusts set to descend on Middle East in time for Passover. A plague of locusts, the likes of which has been unseen for 30 years, is about to hit Africa, adding to the perfect biblical storm. The current coronavirus pandemic is affecting travel of international experts and in-country gatherings for training to combat the locust threat. And again, it's citing the same source that's Cressman on last Monday. So Cressman Locust Watch, we read that before. Cressman, who's worked at the organization for over 3 decades, said that this has been unprecedented. That the last time that there's been such danger was 87 through 89. But again, even at that time, this is just the locusts we're talking about. At that time, I'm not aware of any pandemic threat that was as extreme as coronavirus is today. So this is only talking about locusts and not this convergence that we're seeing. Then it gets into what the locust is, how it operates, which we looked at in the last one, how it's difficult to deal with this, and we don't have the resources. But the main reason that I wanted to bring this up is because, for one thing, it's a second source, but it's Times of Israel that's even saying this is like a biblical plague, that it really feels like that, and doesn't it? I didn't bring up any articles about this, but there are also more reports worldwide about bodies of water turning red, turning like blood, and so that's interesting too. Now, let me know. I want to talk a little bit about some Daily Renegade stuff. Let me know in the chat. And then I want to talk about the spiritual components behind this, if we can. But let me know in the chat. It looks like some people are still having trouble streaming, buffering big time. They must really not want us to watch this tonight. Too many folks on the internet. If you're having trouble, let me know in the chat. Well, actually, you might not be able to let me know in the chat if you're having trouble, because you won't be able to hear me. But if you can see this, if you're able to watch this fine without any problems right now, let me know in the chat and tell me where you're watching. Because I'm seeing on my end a lot of the viewer numbers have dropped, making me think that people aren't able to watch this, unfortunately. Let me know in the chat. Is there I'll actually put in something. Can anybody see me? And again, if you are able to, let me know in the chat. And I'm not getting anything in the chat. Man, I don't know if anybody's even able to see this. On my side, I'm getting a lot of people saying they can't see it. On my side, it has completely frozen and is buffering. 1 second. Sorry. I'll tell you what. Man, I don't want to stop the live stream in case somebody else can see it, but hey, if you're viewing this on Twitter, do you have access to the chat? Are you able to let me know? I can see you, but buffering big time. People are saying it's on and off. Okay, I'm going to tell people, try exiting out and reopening. Twitter @JP Disclosure. We can try that. Yeah, I don't want to lose this whole thing. I worry about continuing on because if I'm not recording this, it's live streaming, so I don't want to lose the entire episode if it's just not going to work. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on Twitter. So, how about Facebook? Got about 10 views there. Okay, something happened on my end. It kind of looked like it was going to do something, but I don't know. Man. All right, I'm gonna give this a second, and I'll tell you what. I'm gonna give this a second on the. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna take a quick break, and I will be right back. Okay, a lot of people are having trouble. Some people are able to see this. I put my Twitch account, my Twitch page in the chat. It is twitch.tv/Josh Peck disclosure. Some people are saying the Twitch is working perfect. So if you're having trouble viewing this, then try the Twitch page. That might work better. Okay, so so far we've talked about this convergence: supervolcanoes, locusts, plagues, pestilence with COVID-19, coronavirus. We've talked about all this. What is all of this headed towards? If this is something, thank you. People in the chat are praying over the issue here. Thank you, much appreciated. If this is a birth pang, what is this leading to, and what are the malevolent spirits behind it? Excuse me. So there was a couple things that I wanted to look at. Obviously, we have to go to Revelation. Now, this is blue. If you're not familiar with this is blueletterbible.org. It's an excellent resource because it'll give you the Strong's concordance along if you're reading the KJV, but you can also read an ESV and all sorts of other things. But it talks about these horsemen, the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and it's interesting how much these kind of it seems like what's going on now seems like a birth pang of this type of thing happening in the future. And it's really interesting because this birth pang that's happening right now, it's worldwide. It's everywhere. And for that type of convergence to happen worldwide, I think this might be the first time that's ever happened. I don't know, but it seems like it is, at least in recent living memory. But look at this. So we know the first horse, the white horse, bow and crown, and so we know that. The second horse, there was a horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. Haven't we been saying that? And that they should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. So that could be the war that we were talking about. In this birth pang. Now, of course, we have like the beginnings of war, and I mean we are engaged in the Middle East and stuff, but something like a world war, I mean, what's happening now in the Middle East could lead to that. Then he opened the third seal. The third beast said, "Come and see." A black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hands, a measure of wheat for a penny and 3 measures of barley for a penny. So it's talking about basically economic ruin. And we're definitely seeing a birth pang of that right now with nobody being able to go to work. The economy is just in the garbage now. Nobody's able to pay their rent. I mean, it's getting really bad. Stores are having to close down. And what's going to end up happening is just major inflation can come out through that. So things will be a lot more expensive because not as many people are buying. They're more. It's more expensive to get these materials, so you have to charge more money for it. And we're already starting to see that now. Again, like I said, I believe this is a birth pang, not exactly what's prophesied here, but it's like an already but not yet kind of deal, where we see examples of this throughout history. Then the fourth beast. This is the one that I want to talk about. Behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. Those two things, it's not the concept of death, and it's not the place of hell. These two are actually spiritual entities, and we'll look into that a little bit later. But it says that power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword and with hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth. So here we kind of got everything. You got war in there, kill with the sword. You got hunger. So you got famine with death, with beasts of the earth. And the color of this, when you look at pale horse, it's actually kind of like a sickly green, which signifies disease. So I want to talk about disease, pestilence, that kind of thing. Now, there are times where pestilence is mentioned, like here, Psalm 91:1. And this is a good one for us to start with because, we don't want to fearmonger here. We don't want people to actually be afraid because God is ultimately more powerful than all of this. And even if something bad happens, God's going to protect you. Even if the worst thing happens and you die, you're still safe if you're under the saving grace of Jesus. So thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. Now here, if you click on the number, you have to click Strong's up here, and then you can click on the number to see what the Hebrew word is, and it's deber, or dever, that's how you pronounce it. And this just does mean pestilence, plague, murrain, cattle disease, cattle plague. So we have an example of Hebrew word that's talking about pestilence and disease. But there are other times where something else is used. Here's another one. This one's interesting. Habakkuk 3:5. Before him went the pestilence, and burning coals went forth at his feet. Now, believe it or not, here we actually have pestilence, just like what we looked at before. That's that same number, dever. But burning coals, what is that? So let's click on that. This is Resheph. And here it's described, or it's defined as like coals, or burning heat, spark, arrow, hot thunderbolt, that kind of stuff. But Resheph many times is actually talking about an ancient Canaanite god. So I have it up here. Resheph is Canaanite. There's other pronunciation in Egyptian and Eblite. It was a deity associated with plague, or a personification of plague, war, and sometimes thunder. Is that the rider of the pale horse, or the red horse, or one of the horses? It was a Canaanite god of pestilence and disease. And there are times where in the Bible where Resheph is mentioned by name, or at least alluded to. It's a fallen deity. It's a false god. By saying false god, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. There are other spiritual entities that are rebellious towards God. They're not on the same level as God, as Yahweh of the Bible, because Yahweh created everything, including these guys. But there are you could say fallen angels. That's also kind of not exactly accurate. If you've read Angels by Dr. Michael Heiser, that's a really good book to pick up about this topic. But in biblical Hebrew, it means flame, firebolt. Resheph was a personal name, also a grandson of Ephraim. Occurs in 1 Chronicles 7:25. And here in Habakkuk, it's mentioned. But yeah, this word refers to the god of pestilence. So a lot of times when you read things in the Bible about like destruction or hell, sometimes it could just be talking about that thing, but sometimes it's associating the false god that was venerated or worshipped in the surrounding pagan nations with that thing. So another great book to pick up on this topic is Veneration by Derek Gilbert, and I believe Sharon Gilbert wrote in that as well. Veneration talks about, I believe that's the one that they talk about Resheph specifically in. So there are times where it's actually talking about not only the pestilence, but the false god associated with pestilence. There's a spirit behind all this stuff. That's the main important thing, is that there's a spirit behind all of this stuff driving this. So again, before him went the pestilence, and Resheph went forth at his feet. So so this is talking about both pestilence and Resheph, and the god, the false god of pestilence, went forth. Job 5:1, or Job 5:7, excuse me, says, "Yet man is born unto trouble as the sparks fly." Now, notice this here. This is really interesting. Sparks has two Hebrew words associated here. This one, H7565, that's Resheph. Now this one, H1121, is Ben. Ben is son. So son, grandson, child, or like people of a nation, the people of a thing, of lifeless things, member of a guild, an order, or a class. So this could be translated here, yet man is born unto trouble as the sons of Resheph fly upward. It's spiritual. These are spiritual entities. Now, how literally do we take that? What was Resheph one of these fallen angels that mated with mankind in Genesis 6? Did Resheph actually have sons, have Nephilim, sons that are now demons walking the earth? The ancient giants? I don't know. I don't know how literally we can really take this, or if it's allegory or what. But here it's describing the difference between man and these fallen evil beings, that man is born unto trouble as the sons of Resheph fly upward. So it's really strange, but it tells us, just like Revelation says with these horsemen, that there are intelligent, conscious, spiritual agents of evil, spiritual entities driving all of this stuff. And so that's important to realize for two reasons. First, it's important to realize that because we need to understand the war that we're living in. We need to understand that we are living in a spiritual war. Ephesians 6 tells us about our spiritual enemy. So we have to know that. And that's important. But it also tells us that God ultimately is in control, because Yahweh, God of the Bible, is more powerful than these entities, and they will see their time in the lake of fire. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. Now, before we get to that, and I want to talk about how an Israeli health minister is saying that he's expecting the Messiah by Passover or something like that, and that will be the cure for coronavirus. But before we get to that, I want to tell you a little bit about some updates that we've been doing to Daily Renegade. So we're going to be doing things a little bit different. We're still going to be providing you with free content, but we're doing it in a slightly different way. So as it's been with most shows, I think with all shows, we've been giving you the first half for free, and then for the full episode, you have to become a member. Well, because of this coronavirus thing, and just with the way the economy is, we're going to be doing it a little different, where we're still doing all of our normal programming for members on the website who get a membership, and but we're going to be doing, and you're still going to get the first half of Peck reports, I believe, as it stands now, and then once or twice a week, we're going to give you a full free episode of one of our other shows. So that way you're going to get a full episode for free, but it's not going to be every single show. So that's why it's a good time while you can now. I've been staving this off as much as possible, increasing the price of admission. So hopefully we won't have to do that. And we have been getting some more member signups, some more paying members, so that certainly helps. But if we do have to increase the price, it's not going to be for people who already have a membership. So get it now while you can, while it's still cheap. It's only $10 a month or $100 a year. I suggest getting the $100 a year because you get 2 months for free. You only got to pay for it once, and you don't have to think about it again for a while, for a whole year. But it's dailyrenegade.com. The reason that you want to get a membership is, I'm going to show you the website, because we're also developing an app right now. We're actually finally able to start developing this. It'll be ready soon. It's going to be very quick. But this is our website, dailyrenegade.com, while it's loading here. With the membership, you get articles. You have to be a member to get those. So you get like it's sort of like an online magazine subscription as well as everything else. But you get a lot of things. So here's the plans and pricing page, and this is everything that you get. Right now, you get the same thing whether you get the $10 a month or the $100 a year. But again, the $100 a year is the best value. You get exclusive content with the membership. You get full-length shows, no commercials, no censorship, so you're not going to be bugged by YouTube commercials that they throw in all the time. You get full Daily Renegade articles on the topics that you love and enjoy. You get access, if you're a paying member, you get access to the vault of exclusive Daily Renegade shows. So the vault, what the vault is, it's a collection, basically, of it's sort of like our version of YouTube. It's a collection of things that aren't necessarily exclusive shows to Daily Renegade. There are other videos, but they all have to do with this fringe Christian stuff that we look into. It's all approved by us, and you can go in there and just watch hours and hours of content for your membership. It's like our version of YouTube. So it's not only the exclusive shows. It's not just that. It's a whole bunch of stuff, and we're continually bringing in more content with that all the time. You'll get a certified Renegade badge on your member page, and you'll have the ability to comment, post, like, and even follow other members. So we're trying to build sort of like a social media kind of thing here for Daily Renegade members, where we can all interact and fellowship together, like we're doing now through this live stream. The more fellowship we can get, the better. But You get a whole bunch of stuff. You get a lot of shows. But yeah, this is our main website. Here, the free versions are right here under latest, so you get the free versions of all of our shows there. But you also get all of these shows, the full versions. We also have a store with a bunch of merchandise. You can get a Nephilim Hunter T-shirt or a Daily Renegade mug. Women Faith in God hoodies, and we got all sorts of cool designs, totally unique to Daily Renegade. Can't get it anywhere else. And if you can go to the Daily Renegade store, and you can use a code that we have up there. You can use a code and get some money off. We also have CBD kratom and this other substance that I can't mention, otherwise YouTube will delete our videos, because they've done that a lot. But look at all of these free shows that you get. All of these shows have multiple episodes. I mean, you have Gary Wayne on here. You have Brian Melvin, Ryan Pitterson. You have Drew Graffia, and the guys from Through the Black, Jared Cressman and Tom Dunn. Apolloneering, Detox Babylon, which is like a mini documentary series. And we just signed him on. Eye for Prophecy, so you can keep up to date. These are, every week, these are the top headlines of prophetically what's going on in the world. And they're just short videos, about 5 to 10 minutes each. And it's just last week in prophecy, basically. So you get to see what all happened. You get to keep up to date. Signed, Sealed, and Delivered, which we just signed up, an excellent interview show, and Christ, Curls, and Conversations, and that's also another great show. So there's things for men, there's things for women, and all of this is family friendly, by the way. So these are things that you can gather your family around during this time of quarantine. Now's the time to do it, and we can all fellowship together. We can all have church together, is basically what it is. You get fellowship, you get good, solid theological teaching, and a big, heavy dose of Jesus in every episode that we do. So you get all that, plus there's a lot more coming. Like I said before, we are developing an app right now for the phone. And I don't know if the TV app is going to be the same thing, but at least from the phone app, you'll be able to cast the videos to your TV. That's why we wanted to do the phone app first. And I believe it's transferable to at least Apple TV, so we're gonna look into that. But right now, we are building the phone app. Things are going along smoothly. That will be available soon. That app, you'll be able to access it if you're not a member. You'll be able to look at the free stuff that we have. But paying members, you'll be able to log in. You'll have direct access to every new thing. Also, what we're doing now is early access to members. So when you see things uploaded on YouTube, if you're a member, you will have gotten that content a day early and the full thing. So there's just all sorts of reasons to get a membership. I think the main thing is we're building something here that is totally different and unique. We're trying to bring the main fringe Christian kind of voices into one central hub for you guys, and we're trying to all fellowship together and get this information all together. So we're trying to get out from under the boot of social media such as YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and the places that censor Christians. They tell us to shut up. They tell us they hate us. They don't want our content on their platforms. We're trying to get out from under their boot. We don't want to be dependent on horrible organizations like that. And we as Christians, we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be dependent on the world. We should be doing our own thing. So that's what we're building, all of us together, me and you. So with your membership, you're participating in that as well. Also, a percentage of your membership goes to some really good causes. Two ministries, and there's information about this at dailyrenegade.com, but there's a pro-life ministry, two ministries that minister to the Jewish people, and Children's Hospital. So all your membership doesn't just go to us; it goes to these other things as well. So all around, we're trying to be a blessing to the world, and we're trying to be a blessing to you guys, and we're trying to serve you the best way that we can by giving you more than your money's worth. That's what we are trying to do. So again, one more time, then we'll get to the rest of this live stream. Again, dailyrenegade.com. Please consider being a member today. If you're going to do it, now is the time to do it, because I can't promise that prices won't go up for new members. If you have a membership, they're not going to go up. It will remain the same price for you. So get it now while you can, while it's still cheap. And again, the more memberships we get, the longer I can push off having to increase prices. I hope to never have to do it. I like the $10 a month or $100 a year. I think that's as low as we can charge, and I'd like to keep it there if at all possible. So, again, okay. So let's do. So dailyrenegade.com. Also, again, while you're there, that top headline that I showed you, we have some excellent Kratom, which if you are a chronic pain sufferer like I am, make sure to get some Kratom. You can do that at dailyrenegade.com we offer two options for you. They're both great. And stock up on it while you can, because the FDA and the DEA is trying to shut this stuff down. And right now, because of the coronavirus stuff, everybody's buying it. Everybody's buying it like crazy. So get some now while you can before they sell out, and stock up. Buy as much as you can. This stuff stores for a long time, so you don't have to worry about that. Store it in a cool, dry, dark place. You'll be fine. I just keep mine in a cupboard in my kitchen, and there's Kratom that I've had for 3 years, and it still works great. So if you're a chronic pain sufferer, or even if you have arthritis, back pain, knee pain, joint pain, anything like that, this can help. This has also helped people through anxiety and depression, so that's good. Another thing that's helped with that is CBD. This can also help with pain. I've heard lots of stories about that. It certainly helped me. I take this every day, just an hour before bed. I sleep great, and then the next day I don't need to take as much Kratom. So this is another thing you're going to want to stock up on. There's just so many health benefits with it. And there's the other thing. Oh no, my finger slipped. I didn't mean to show you that. There's the other thing I'm not supposed to talk about. Otherwise, YouTube deleted 30 of our videos just because we mentioned that product and said that you can clean your countertops with it. But a lot of it is just the coronavirus craze, and just the hypersensitivity to talking about anything natural health related. So, but you can do all that at dailyrenegade.com. Now is the time to do it. I believe many of those things have discount codes as well. You can find that all at the website, dailyrenegade.com. Become a member today and start fellowshipping with your brothers and sisters in Christ. Okay, so let's get into the next thing that I wanted to mention here, and that is this Israeli health minister is talking about the possibility of the quote unquote Messiah, their Messiah figure that they're looking for, showing up, and that this Messiah will cure COVID-19, will be the cure to COVID-19. And this brings up a lot of questions about the Antichrist too, because a lot of people have wondered, not only like we mentioned before, could the Antichrist be the Messiah figure that the Orthodox Jews are looking for right now? Is there a connection? Now, there's also been connections between the Mark of the Beast and the Antichrist. Some say that the Mark of the Beast is going to be something that changes genetics. And could that possibly be done through some type of vaccine where this individual is immune to, say, a pandemic? and a vaccine is created with his blood. And then if you take that mark, it changes your DNA. You're no longer considered human. You're not eligible for salvation anymore. And is that why people who take the mark of the beast are thrown into the lake of fire for all of eternity? There's a lot of speculation and a lot of what ifs. But what's interesting is that the Orthodox Jewish leadership in Israel right now have been looking for a Messiah figure. And man, if one was gonna try to assume that role, it seems like now would be the time, right? So let's, and this is why it's important to know what they believe. While we don't believe these things, we know who the Messiah is. It's important to know what they believe because, for one thing, it helps us minister to them. It helps us know how to reach them. It helps us know how to present the gospel to them in a way that they can understand and they can accept. So that's good. But it also helps us keep watch of the times, stay up to date on what's going on. Figure out when prophecy is being fulfilled. So we need to know this stuff. So this comes from Haaretz.com. Israeli health minister's cure for COVID-19, the Messiah. So it starts with a quote here from Health Minister Yaakov Litzman, and this came last week after Yaniv Khalif of the Hebrew language news website Hamal asked him whether Israelis will be forced to remain under lockdown until the holiday, which begins April 8th, so in just a couple days from now. And so the answer he gave is, quote, "We are praying and hoping that the Messiah will arrive before Passover, the time of our redemption. I am sure that the Messiah will come and bring us out as God brought us out of Egypt. Soon we will go out in freedom, and the Messiah will come and redeem us from all the troubles of the world." So for some reason, I don't know, this publication is framing it as Litzman's ignorant answer was not met with uproar. Why throw the guy under the bus like that? But it says, it's reasonable for a religious man, a member of the Gur Hasidic community, one of the most conservative Jewish communities in the world, to head the health ministry is it reasonable to head the health ministry as it faces the biggest crisis Israel has ever known? We're that type of, I would call it just outright bigotry, but we're facing that type of bigotry here in our country too. People are coming out against Mike Pence because he's a Christian, and why? Is it reasonable for him to be heading up? Scientists should be in charge. Scientists aren't administrators. Mike Pence is the number 2 guy in the country. I mean, that shows how seriously this administration is taking this, that they're putting their number 2 guy in charge, that if anything were to happen to our current president, he would be next in line for the presidency. He would be the president. They're putting him in charge of this, of how we're going to deal with this crisis. So we're seeing the same type of bigotry, here against an Orthodox Jew that we see in our country towards Christian Mike Pence. So it says, it goes without saying that the solution to this crisis will of necessity come from science, an area of human knowledge to which Gur Hasidim are less than sympathetic. Again, isn't it interesting how this type of mentality crosses the globe? I mean, you could easily see some leftist person in America saying this about any Christian. We're anti-science, that type of thing, and that certainly the answer will come from science, not fairy tales about God and Christianity. It couldn't be that. You see the same type of bigotry on the other side of the world in Israel. So this publication says the truth is that Litzman's unfortunate comment flew under the radar because Israel has always followed a twisted hierarchy. Religion is superior to secularism, and religious actions are more important than secular ones. Again, I mean, it's like out of the mouths of the left today. So I wanted to bring up this article, for one thing, just to show the anti-Semitism of it and how we're dealing with that in our own country. That, if it was people, no religious person would ever be in any kind of position of power, especially having to do with scientific, endeavors. But so I wanted to show that, but I also wanted to show that there are religious Jews, there are Orthodox religious Jews in Israel right now that have been saying for quite a while that they're expecting the Messiah basically any day now. And some of them are saying that a Messiah, their Messiah, is going to come amid this coronavirus pandemic and bring us a solution, bring the world a solution. Do I believe that? It's not going to be the Messiah. It could be the Antichrist, though. But wouldn't it be interesting if a figure did assume that role, if a person did assume that Messiah role and say, I am he, I am the one that's going to bring this answer. And then we might recognize that individual as the Antichrist. Who knows? It's something that we definitely need to keep our eyes on. Now, I want to talk about one more thing before we go to Q&A, if we can even do a Q&A. Is anybody even able to see this anymore? Hopefully you're able to view it on Twitch. Again, if not, go to twitch.tv/JoshPeckDisclosure. But one last thing that I wanted to talk about is the personification of hell, spiritual entities versus spiritual realms. And I wrote this a while ago, but the reason I wanted to bring this up was to say there's hope. There's a good ending to this story. While we're seeing these convergences, we're seeing these spiritual entities kind of spurring this on, bringing this stuff in. And there are times where it seems hopeless, but there is hope. There is hope because we have an eternity with God. They have an eternity in the lake of fire. And so I wanted to talk about this article I wrote a while ago. This was quite a while ago, in 2014, January 23rd of 2014. So this is 6-7 years old, something like that. But it's relevant in light of what we're going through now. So I write here, sometimes hell is a person. I'm sure at first glance that might seem like a strange claim to make. How can a place be a person? Is it just representative? Is it a metaphor? These types of questions come up when we look at things like Job 28:22, which says, destruction and death say, we have heard the fame thereof in our ears. Now the word death is used here, and again, you can look this up at blueletterbible.org. But it comes from the word maveth and means death, dying, death, personified, and realm of the dead. So we can see when maveth is used, it can be talking about an idea, a location, or a person, a personification. We just need to look at the context. So the first thing we need to address when trying to learn something about the book of Job, we got to be careful who's speaking the narrative. You know, Job has some friends who all throughout the book are speaking of their false ideas, so we have to be careful there. But there are times when Job is speaking. There are times when you get the proper interpretation of the world around us and the spirit world. So we can look at Job 28:22 at the word destruction. Did you know that destruction and death are actually speaking? And the word, if you're not familiar with this is going to surprise you, and it's actually pretty interesting. But the word for destruction in this verse comes from the word Abaddon, meaning place of destruction, ruin, or Abaddon, a proper name. Now that probably sounds familiar as Apollyon in the book of Revelation, the king over the locusts, the spiritual false god, the fallen evil god over the locusts. And that is in Revelation 9:11, which says, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. So we're told specifically that Abaddon is an angel of the bottomless pit. And in the original language of Job 28:22, we find the same word used. So that shows, at least in this passage, death and destruction are referring to spiritual beings. That actually happens quite a bit. Another example is Job 26:6, which says, hell is naked before him, and destruction hath no covering. Now, the personification here is a little bit more difficult to pick out, but it is there if we know how to look for it. So hell there is Sheol, meaning underworld, grave, hell, pit, and the word for destruction is the same Abaddon that we looked at earlier. So it would look like, at first glance, this is speaking of a place, an idea. You know, we would normally think of Sheol as the abode of the dead, and destruction as like a state of being. But most times that's correct. But here, I don't think this is the case. I think that we have the same entity called Abaddon and now an entity called Sheol. And I believe that at times Sheol actually refers to a spiritual entity, just the same as destruction can refer to the bottomless pit. So we can show this by looking at claims made about these two beings. So first it says that hell is naked. So the word for naked there comes from the word arom, meaning naked or bare. So either we're talking about a more physical idea of nakedness, or are we talking about a bareness or an emptiness? No covering. When we think about the place of hell, or more accurately Sheol, do we picture it as being empty? How can Sheol be the abode of the dead if there were no dead in it? How would that make any sense? So we're probably not talking about that type of nakedness. Now, if this is referring to a person, like an entity, then it makes sense. Now we can think of Abaddon, destruction in the same way. Now, a lot of times these spiritual entities will, as we looked at with Resheph, they'll share a name with the place they inhabit or the type of thing they're associated with. Like Resheph he's associated with like pestilence and disease and things, so he shares a name with things like that. So we see that here, the bottomless pit verses in Revelation 1, 9, and 2. So think about it this way. For the bottomless pit to be opened, because that's a prophecy that speaks about how it's opened. He opened the bottomless pit, and there arose smoke out of the pit, and that's where the locusts come out. It must be originally closed. So clearly the bottomless pit does have a covering of some kind. So Job 26:6 is not talking about the bottomless pit, saying that it doesn't have a covering. It can't be talking about the place, because we know the place does have a covering, but it could be talking about the entity associated with it not having a covering. Like we have a covering of Jesus Christ. We have a spiritual covering. These have none. So I believe that type of thing follows with Job 26:6, and also Jude 1:6, which says, "The angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains and darkness unto the judgment of the great day." That word habitation comes from oikterion in Greek, meaning a dwelling place or habitation of the body, a dwelling place for the spirit. So whatever that original covering was that the angels had before it, before they fell, it was a dwelling place for their spirit, but now they're naked. Now they don't have that covering anymore, because, like Jude tells us, they gave up that habitation. They gave up they shed that covering. So that just adds more evidence towards in that previous verse, in that context, towards those being entities and not places or ideas. Now, what's great about that, and again, we see that here in Revelation 6:8. I looked and beheld a pale horse, and on him, the name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. This is clearly talking about two entities, not death as a concept and hell as a place. Here's the great thing about that, because we also read in verse 14, and death, and this is 2014, Revelation 20:14, death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. All right, so there is a judgment coming for these guys. So that is our hope. I mean, our hope is in Jesus, but that Jesus, the righteous judge, that the righteous judge is going to judge all of these things. So whatever hell is being brought upon us right now, in terms of coronavirus stuff or earthquakes or volcanoes or locusts or any of that stuff, that's all going to be judged. That's all going to be dealt with. These entities that are bringing this stuff and spurring these things on, these evil, rebellious angels, agents of evil, rebellious against God, they're going to have their place in the lake of fire. They're going to be judged. So they get a judgment. What do we get? We get eternal rest in Jesus Christ. And that is absolutely amazing. That is absolutely wonderful. So that's what we should hold on to. That should be our focus. That yes, things are bad. Things are going to get worse. Maybe not right now. Maybe this is one birth pang that will end soon, and then we'll have another one to look forward to. But we know ultimately things are going to get worse, because we have the book of Revelation at our disposal, and we know how that all works. we all know how that's going to play out. So things are going to get a lot worse, whether we're here for it or not. That has to do with the rapture. If people have a question about that in the Q&A in just a moment, we can do that. Real quickly, somebody is asking about Nathan donating for my son who has leukemia. Just real quick, dailyrenegade.com/donate. There's several ways you can donate there, so I just wanted to address that while somebody's asking. But going back to what I was saying, there is a judgment for these things. So whatever these entities are throwing at you, it is temporary. What's eternal is the Spirit of God living in you right now. What is eternal is your relationship with Jesus. What's eternal is God's promise, Jesus' promise, that if you accept his gift of salvation, if you believe in him, if you believe and have faith and follow him, and if you want it, you can have eternal life with God. You can be reconciled with God, and you don't have to have your part in the lake of fire. You don't have to be with these rebellious angels and demons that rebelled against God long ago and continue to do so today. So that's good. That's the main note that I want to end today's live stream on before we get to Q&A. And that's the thing that we should be focused on. That is the thing we should be sharing with the world. That's why it's so important for us to witness and make disciples of all nations. We're giving them peace by doing that. Not only are we teaching them about eternal life through Jesus Christ, but we're giving them some peace in this life, that even through persecution, that they can still have joy. Just read Acts 5. It's an amazing passage where they're being beaten and tortured, but these first Christians, but they're counted. They're joyous. They're celebrating because they're counted as worthy to suffer shame for the name of Jesus, for Jesus' name. That fills them with joy. I mean, imagine that level of faith, that you're being persecuted like that. You're not even necessarily angry about it. You're thankful that you're counted as worthy to suffer shame for Jesus' name. And it's because we know that he died on the cross for us. He went through a horrible death and torture for us. So, I mean, it's an amazing passage in Scripture. All right, so we can do Q&A. If you got questions, go ahead, put them in. Vic Shannon's asking, why can't we donate through the chat anymore? Because YouTube has revoked our monetization abilities. So we can't do super chat anymore. We can't monetize the channel anymore, which has been a little devastating for us because that's a revenue stream that we lost. And we were using that money to build Daily Renegade and to pay people to run the website because that's expensive. You also have to pay for to be able to house your own videos somewhere. You got to pay for the storage to have all this content somewhere. That stuff is not free. So we lost a major revenue stream. So if you want to donate, if you're thinking about donating and you want to do that, if you want to do it for Nathan, the best place to go, dailyrenegade.com/donate. Everything that gets donated through there goes to Nathan. If you want to donate towards just the cause of Daily Renegade, I would say the first thing, get a donation, and then when you sign up for a donation, you'll be given the option to donate if you want to, and then that will go towards Daily Renegade. And listen, if you just want to donate through the donate page, but you want it for Daily Renegade, just make a note of it, and we'll make sure that your donation goes to the right place. But if we get a donation through the Daily Renegade donate page and there's no note on it, then we have that for Nathan. But a donation to Nathan does help Daily Renegade anyway, because it means, the more donations for Nathan means the less money we have to pull out of Daily Renegade income to support Nathan and keep him healthy. And the more of that, the more of the revenue coming in from Daily Renegade we can keep in Daily Renegade for upgrading things and the running of the website, hiring employees, that type of thing. But in short, that is why we're unable to donate through the chat anymore. Okay, so I'm not even sure if people are even able to watch because of all the buffering problems we've been having. But if you are, and if you have a question, you can put it in the chat now. We are now officially in Josh Peck Live Q&A. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the Josh, is GoFundMe still okay for Nathan? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And the only reason that I said dailyrenegade.com/donate is because the GoFundMe links are there. So, but yeah, I mean, if you have the link to the GoFundMe right now and you just go straight there, that's totally fine. There's actually 2 GoFundMes, and both of them are us. So that's absolutely fine. And yeah, that would be great. Okay, question. Hi, I was on the backup channel, D-Live. Did you ever go there? I've been there more lately, and I've seen a lot less troll in D-Live. Yeah, I signed up with D-Live, and I tried to stream there, but on my, I'll actually show you what I'm looking at. On my, it's restream.io, and down here on D-Live, it just keeps saying sending data. It's not saying online. You know, when it says online, that's how you know you're streaming on these services. But it just keeps saying sending data for some reason. So it's working on Twitch at least, but D-Live for some reason, and it did this last time too. Same with LinkedIn and Dailymotion. So not sure what the problem is there, but I will keep trying to get that to work. Have you ever researched the original text for Bo Tucson, I think, for the White Horse Rider? No, I have. I'm sure I have, but you know, actually, let's do that right now. Let's see what Blue Letter Bible has to say. I'm sure I have looked into it, but off of the top of my head, I wouldn't be able to really offer anything on it. But let's see what Blue Letter Bible has to say about that, about the bow. Let's see, that is Revelation 6. So this should be. This should be interesting. And this is for the White Horse Rider. So we are going to look at that, and I'll put it on screen share so you can see what I'm doing. All you do, you just look up the verse, you click Strong's. And so here we have a bow. So for those who want the verse, it's Revelation 6:2. And I saw and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. Really quick, interesting side note, and if you want, I can do a whole live stream on this, but the horses in Revelation 6 mirror the horses of Zechariah 6. Isn't that interesting? There is a whole bunch of information with that. There's so much more to these horses and their riders than we're commonly taught. There's a lot there. But let's see what it has to say about bow. So you're correct. It is toxon. It's a neuter noun from the base. Here's the Greek here. It says just a bow. A bow apparently as the simplest fabric. Huh. Strange. From Homer down, the Septuagint often for a bow. Let's see. And it looks like that is the only time that word is used in the New Testament. So not really a whole ton of information there. Greek inflections. Yeah, this is something I would have to do more study into. There are other tools here. But yeah, not really a whole lot, I guess. Vine's Expository Dictionary says a bow used in Revelation 6:2. Looks like we get it in, what is that, Habakkuk 3:8-9. The instrument is frequently mentioned in the Septuagint, especially in the Psalms. So let's see what this one is here. Habakkuk 3:8. Was the Lord displeased against the rivers? Was thine anger against the rivers? Was thy wrath against the sea, that thou didst ride upon thine horses and thy chariots of salvation? Thy bow was made quite naked according to the oaths of the tribes. Even thy word, Selah, thou didst cleave the earth with rivers. So let's go to the Strong's here and see what bow means here, because they're saying between the Greek and Hebrew, it's the same. So this is Kesheth. Kesheth sounds like Rasheth. That's interesting. Not sure if there's any correlation. But it says bow for hunting, bowmen or archers, bow figurative of might, or a rainbow. So it can mean these different things. Original sense of bending, a bow for shooting, an archer, arrow, bowman. And then there's several options here. Oh, and that's even the same word that is used for bow in Genesis when God says that he puts his bow in the cloud and it shall be for a token of covenant between me and the earth. And most people believe that that is the rainbow. Now that's interesting. So could this be in Revelation, could this taxon that is talking about, could this be a false type of rainbow? What could that be talking about? Are there any social movements today that could possibly be talking about? I don't know. But, you know, there are some people that say that the Antichrist is the the rider on the white horse. So will he have his kind of bow in the air? And what would that look like? Especially if it signifies might. You know, some people, there's all sorts of things that could mean. But very good question. And, yeah, Vic Shannon is saying that would be a good question for Dr. Heiser. Absolutely. That would be. So let's see. Anybody else have any other questions? As far as right now, that's as far as I can go on the bow question. But that does bring up some other interesting questions. That's something that I think I'm going to have to look into more, because I bet, like most things, it's one of those little oddities that seems like it's just random and put there, but there's probably a wealth of information having to do with it. So if you have any other questions, put them in the chat now. But yeah, I've found that to be the case. When there's something odd or strange, and Dr. Michael Heiser says this too, if it's weird, it's important. And there's probably a lot that can be pulled out of that. So yeah, I'll look into that more, and we'll see what we can come up with. And actually, in a couple of months, Dr. Heiser has agreed to be on this channel again. So we'll have him on for an interview. And I don't know. Now, I don't know if it's live or pre-recorded. If I can do it live, I will, but it might have to be pre-recorded. So maybe we can figure out a way to do a Q&A, though. CEO is saying, I've heard as an explanation that the white horse rider is the Antichrist, but the other three horse riders seem to be spirit beings. So maybe it's an Antichrist spirit, but not the Antichrist. Yeah, and, you know, all of these things have a spiritual counterpart. So there's a spiritual entity behind all of this stuff, even behind the physical human Antichrist figure. So it very well could be both. It could be one of those things where it's not either or, but it's both and. What's your name on DLive? I'm looking for you in another window and I can't find you. I'm not sure exactly, but it doesn't look like it's streaming on DLive anyway. Let me find that for you while we're on. Let me look that up real quick. But I am on, again, I am on Twitch. I gave that link before. It's twitch.tv/Josh Peck Disclosure. Okay, okay, my channel. It is dlive.tv/Daily Renegade. I'll put it in the chat. So this is me on DLive. I have not done really anything with this channel. Even right now, it's saying that it's offline. So I'm not sure what the problem is with streaming to it. So it's dlive.tv/Daily Renegade. So that's where you can find me. But again, I don't have any content on there yet. Do you think the coronavirus thing is a test run for something worse? Yes, I do. Now, who's running the test? That's the question. I think we can definitely say some spiritual agents of evil are running a test to see how we'll react, what we can get away with. I believe that there are human agents involved in that too, who are using this as an opportunity to see what they can get away with. We've certainly seen that in local governments, just an overreach of power. And now, was it originated for that purpose? I don't know. But yeah, I do believe that there are probably a lot of spiritual agents, and some human ones too, that are using this as an opportunity to test us and see what they can get away with. Now, that being said, I don't believe that the whole coronavirus thing, I don't believe that, like, some people saying the whole coronavirus thing is fake and it's not real and there's no disease. I don't believe that. I believe it's a very real pandemic. I believe people are actually getting sick. And now, how it originated, we have no idea. So, that's up for debate. So I don't know. But we do have to treat it seriously because it is a serious pandemic. Josh, any conversation with Steve Quayle in the future? I hope so. He has agreed like a while ago. He did agree to come on the channel sometime, and I just got caught up with other things, and I just didn't have a chance to follow up with him on that. And then I finally did have a chance to follow up with him, and I said, hey, let's do it. And then Nathan got sick. And that really set back a lot of plans I had. So absolutely, I do want to have Steve Quayle on this channel. He did say that he would come on. So it's really just a matter of us coordinating our schedules. But yeah, I'd love to have Steve on. He's a great guy. Let's see. See if there's any other questions. Let's see. I'm following you now. Oh, great. Hey, thank you, Overbuilt. Great to see you. All right. Yep, I see you from D Live. Awesome. Any comments on ID 2020 promos? Not as of yet. Not anything outside of stuff that I said in the last live stream, but that's something we'll keep our eye on for sure. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of live streams where we talk about that in the future. Yes, human agents may be conditioning for the future. Yeah, there's certainly a lot of, there are very dark, shadowy people, globalist types even, that relish in this kind of thing because they like to see what they can get away with. And, the answer to that is prayer for them. Pray that they get saved and receive Jesus. I mean, what an ultimate destruction of the plans of the enemy. If all of these globalist guys, can you imagine if they all accepted Jesus and got saved? And I know that people think that that's foolish. Some people think that it could never happen. Some people think that these guys are too far gone. Look, they're still breathing. Their heart is still beating. They're not too far gone. They can be saved. Saul of Tarsus slaughtered Christians. And Christians, you don't think Christians were praying for him? And this is the first century church we're talking about. This is like the strongest the church has ever been in terms of faith and dealing with other Christians and just how to do the whole Christian thing. They certainly prayed for Saul. Of course they did. Saul was persecuting them, and they understood the importance of loving and praying for your enemy because Jesus taught them that. Of course they were praying for him. And look what happened. Jesus showed up to him. Like, just showed up. I had an interesting conversation. It's online somewhere, but I talked with Zoltan Istvan. We did kind of like a debate thing. Christianity versus transhumanism. For those not familiar, he's like one of the leaders of the transhumanist party. He's a big-time transhumanist, basically stands for everything that Christianity is opposed to. I don't agree with him on anything, but I find him to be as a person, I like him. Just as a person, is very easy to get along with. Don't agree with a word he says, but he's very easy to get along with. So we did this debate, and I asked him, what would it take for you to become a Christian? Like, what would it take for you? Have you ever given that any thought? What would it take for you to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior? And this is all online. I believe it's on the Into the Multiverse channel if you want to watch it. Just search his name and my name and you'll find it. But he said, oh, absolutely. All it would take is Jesus just has to show up and show me the holes in his hand and the hole in his side, and I'm a Christian. And I don't believe that he was being, I don't believe he was joking. I believe he was absolutely serious when he said that. So I said, hey, that just might happen because you know what? It happened with Thomas. It happened with Saul. There's no reason it can't happen with Zoltan. So I say pray for these people. If enough of us get together and really, really put our all into it, pray, fast, just plead with the Lord on their behalf. There's no reason Jesus can't show up for these people, and that could lead to them believing. So that's important to keep in mind. So I believe that that's what we as Christians should do. We should love our enemies, even those who persecute us, enough to pray for them, because we don't want to see them. We don't want to see them in hell for eternity. We need to recognize that they are being deceived, just like we all were before we were saved. They're being deceived heavily. They believe what they're, everybody does what is right in their own eyes. So they believe what they're doing is right. They're wrong about that, but they believe that. And so we need to pray for these people, and I mean really seriously pray, not just say a little prayer here and there, but I mean really pray in your prayer closet, fasting, all of that stuff. And enough of us do that. If we pray as hard as the first century church prayed for Saul, these people could turn into a Paul. It very, very well could happen. But if we have the attitude that no, they're too far gone, it's never going to happen, then it won't happen, and at that point it would be our fault. So, all right, let's see. Any other questions? Would love to see Steve Quallen here. Josh, thanks. I'll spread your name in D Live. Know you'll get streaming figured out. Thank you, Overbuilt. Much appreciated. All right. Any other questions? Just scrolling through. Hey, I got somebody calling me a fraud. Well, you always there's always at least one. Let's see. I watch Skywatch TV on YouTube almost every day. I like it a lot. Tom Horn is amazing. Thank you, Mr. Vex. Much appreciated. I'm glad you liked the show. Yeah, I love. There was a very small internet rumor going around for a while, because I wasn't on the panel for a long time at Skywatch, and people were wondering if I still work there. Still work there. That is still my day-to-day job. Very much involved with Skywatch TV. So nothing has changed there. Let's see. Prayers needed for sure. Zoltan might get a surprise. Yeah, I certainly hope so. I'm praying for that. I would love to see him. I would love there for there to be a day where I can call Zoltan my brother in Christ. I really, really pray for that. Oh, here we go. I'm the fraud because Sean Clarkson is saying nobody is actually getting sick. It's a lie. I can promise you that. Well, if a random person on YouTube is promising you, then you got to believe him. Only flu-related deaths and other causes, not a virus that can't be spread from person to person. Yeah, there is a new thing going around. Everybody's looking for a new pet theory. There's a new theory going around that like viruses aren't real or something. I don't know. It gets to the point where it's like there are certain people that will just look for the most extreme out there thing, and then they'll believe that, and then they'll get really mad at others that don't, like this guy here, who is calling me a fraud in all caps because I believe viruses are real. And you see that same MO, you see that same type of attitude with those people. You've seen it in the flat earth camp. You see it in any camp. I mean, every camp has some of these people. But what it shows you is that they don't actually take their own theory seriously. They're using it as a tool to bolster themselves up, to make themselves feel like, they're smarter than everybody. They know more than you, and you're just stupid if you believe anything other than what they believe. So these guys are they're not in it for you. They don't want to teach anybody truth. They're in it for themselves. They're totally self-absorbed. So it looks like we got someone in the chat like that. But you see that. So if you see this like are viruses real thing, you're going to see a lot of angry people shouting at you if you decide to get involved in that conversation, shouting at you because you believe that viruses are real. If they actually took their own view seriously, they would realize, there's generations that I'm up against here there's a lot of things teaching these people that viruses are real that I am up against. So what right do I have to think that I can just say something online randomly and they'll believe me? But these people, they don't have any humility. They don't have humility to think that way. They think they know and you don't, and you're stupid and you're wrong and you're bad if you don't believe every word that they say, even though they're just a random. See how highly they think of themselves? You should never just believe a random person online, no matter what they're saying. It's ridiculous. Okay, let's see. Have you heard about the quantum dot implant by Bill Gates' clan? No, I haven't. I'll have to look into that, Vic. Thank you for that tip. I will. I'll definitely look into that. I have not heard about that. Um, let's see. Who else we got? Josh, are you still doing the carnivore diet? I'm kind of doing like keto. Very low carb right now. I probably should get back on the carnivore and do that again. I did it. I did it again for like a month, and then I had no weight changes whatsoever. I wasn't gaining and I wasn't losing whatsoever. So then I did keto again, no changes in weight, and then I started doing just like a little bit of carbs, not like full bread stuff, but just like a little bit of carbs here and there, and still no weight change, and I still pretty much feel kind of the same. I probably should plus I've been juicing a lot more lately too. I've been doing like a lot of like ginger and lemon and that kind of stuff, and Christina's been making a lot of teas with like fresh herbs and things like that. So I've been doing a lot of that more than carnivore. But I probably should go back to it. I just I haven't seen any real change from doing what I'm doing now. So we'll see. I'll probably end up doing it again though. Gates is calling for a national shutdown. Yeah, I don't doubt it. Let's see. I'll send you the link. Thank you, Vic. Much appreciated. Hey, Derek. Good to see you. Derek saying, you go. Can't understand those who refuse to believe Dr. Fauci, but will believe random YouTubers. Yeah, no kidding. Hey, Derek, I got to get with you and get you on here. I tried to explain Reshef in today's live stream, and I think I totally butchered it. I didn't explain it as well as you can. Whenever you get time, I'd love to schedule a day to have you on here, especially in terms of all this coronavirus, COVID-19 stuff. I mean, the whole Reshef, this pestilence god kind of thing. I mean, it's really relevant, and you explain it way better than I do. So I'd love to have you on sometime when we can find a day and time to do it and talk about that stuff. Because Derek and I have talked about often how we're in a spiritual war, and there's a lot of times that we kind of in reaction, we reactionarily will pray when something bad happens. As a reaction, we'll pray, but a lot of times we forget or don't think about doing it beforehand, doing it every day, and it's just keeping up our defenses in the spiritual battle that we are engaged in, and how important that is. So, Derek, I'd love to have you back on, you and Sharon both. That would be awesome. And thanks for. What about intermittent fasting? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Thanks for joining in the chat, Derek. Hope you and Sharon are doing well and staying healthy, and hope you guys are doing good. You've been really rocking it with 5 and 10 and Sci Friday and Unraveling Revelation, which everybody should go watch. You can find information on all of those shows from Derek and Sharon Gilbert at skywatchtv.com, and also the Skywatch TV YouTube channel. I think it's all linked there. youtube.com/skywatchtv_official. CO is asking, what about intermittent fasting? I have been doing that more often too, and I like it. It actually gives you more time, and if you do it, I found if you do it on like really low carb or on keto or carnivore, whatever, as long as you're not filling your body with a bunch of carbs and empty calories and sugars and things, you don't get so hungry that you feel like you're going to get sick in the morning, because that would happen to me a lot when I was eating a lot of carbs. So for me now, it's really easy to intermittent fast. Most days I'll eat just like one big meal. And just some days I don't eat anything at all, and because I forget about it because I don't actually feel hungry. I don't know if we as human beings, just the way that our bodies are made, I don't know if we're designed to eat 3 times a day like that. I don't know. I'm not a dietitian, so I don't. But it seems like, I've gone days without like. There have been like a day here and there where my body hasn't told me I needed food. So that's just odd. But yeah, intermittent fasting is great. I couldn't say enough good about it. So if you don't do it, you should. Let's see. Lots of people saying hi to Derek. Okay, just text me. We'll do it, Derek says. All right, awesome. Yeah, we'll do. We don't have to try to set up a date and time in the chat thing here. But yeah, all right, great. Well, we will get Derek Gilbert on the show sometime soon, and that will be awesome. Thanks, Derek. Any issue obtaining kratom? Some suppliers can't seem to keep it in stock. I stocked up early, like around the same time that I was telling people that they should start stocking up. That's when I started stocking up. So I kind of have a stockpile of it that'll last me a while. I might have, I don't know, maybe a year's supply. So I'm recommending that if you're able to, do the same thing. Get at least a year, but you might have to get more. I mean, it's not only that suppliers are running out, but the FDA and DEA are trying to shut it down completely. And of course, they will. They're going to do it. They will use a crisis such as this to get what they want. So stock up now while you can. And if you need a couple of good sources, dailyrenegade.com, we have them linked there. Derek saying we're good. Thanks. Praying for you and your family. Thanks, Derek. We are praying for you guys as well. All right. Thank you, Harmony, for putting Derek's YouTube up there. Let's see. And the Skywatch TV one. Thank you. Articles for Daily Renegade, still accepting? Yes, absolutely. If you want to write articles for Daily Renegade, we are still accepting articles, definitely. And if your articles are good, like if we accept them, if they're accepted, then you can get a free membership out of that. So if you can't afford a membership, but if you have time, you can donate your time to us, and we'll give you a free membership if you want to write articles. Now, in order to maintain the free membership, we need at least one article a month. You could write them every day if you wanted, but we need at least one a month. And they got to be on topics that, kind of have to do with what Daily Renegade is all about. So anything that honors Christ is going to be fine. But, if you're talking about, I don't know, if you're talking about like the best bars in Louisiana or something, obviously that's not gonna fit with us. But yeah, absolutely, we'd love to just send your article to joshpeckdisclosure@gmail.com. That is my email. 2,000 words or more. In probably a Word document would be fine, or a Pages document, something like that. Yeah, just send them my way, and if it's something that will fit with what we do, I'll get you in touch with our web team, and you can start sending articles to them, and they'll hook you up with a free membership. So yeah, that is a way that if you want to be a member of Daily Renegade but can't afford it, you can provide articles. We don't just publish anybody. So if you are paying for a membership, then that our articles are good quality. They're top quality. So we're not just publishing anything that comes to us. So we want to give you your money's worth, basically. I'd like to buy it by a giant bag, kilo, but where to get it in a big bag, not little ones. That's legit as a caregiver for my dad and such. I thought one of the two sources that's listed at dailyrenegade.com did that, but if they don't, if you can't get big bags of it from the sources that we provide, email me at joshpeckdisclosure.com. Or actually, yeah, I'll put you in touch with somebody who can. But I can't do that for everybody. But Overbuilt, you've been following me for a while. I feel like I know you. You're a friend, and it's for your dad. So I have somebody that can help with that. Because I had to buy mine in bulk too. I thought one, because we have two. Let me just show you real quick. We have two different sources. So we give people an option at Daily Renegade. Up here is Coastline Kratom, and then if you look down here, this CBD in Kratom. This is Tropic Health. They also have Kratom. Now, at one time, one of these. You can also get it here. This is also Tropic Health. At one time, one of these or maybe both did sell them in the big bulk bags, but they might not anymore. I don't know. I thought they did, but if they don't, If they don't, email me, get a hold of me, and we'll get you taken care of. All right, let's see. All right, anybody else got any questions? If not, I think it's probably time. Here we go. For articles, stories relating to the Lord, yeah, that's fine. I mean, when I say anything that works with Daily Renegade, just like what Christians would like enjoy reading. I mean, and also we're not like, as long as you're not bashing anybody, you can hold like any position, like I don't know, like rapture positions. Like if you're a mid-trib person and you want to write an article about that and give the biblical reasons why you believe that, we would totally publish something like that, as long as you're not saying like, anybody who believes in pre-trib and teaches you that, they're lying. They're believing lies from the pit of hell. As long as you're not bashing other people, you can disagree, but as long as you're not actually bashing your brothers and sisters in Christ, then it's totally fine. So, we like to provide that kind of stuff. So yeah, anything like that. All I meant when I said things that like actually work with what we do at Daily Renegade. I mean, like if you sent an article about like, I don't know, a camera review or like a review of the new iPhone or something like that, and that was your article, we wouldn't publish it because it wouldn't have anything to do with what we do. So that's all I meant about that. So yeah, absolutely. Josh Peck Disclosure at gmail.com. Email me there and we'll get you set up. XWow Gamer Girl saying, hi, Josh. Hey, good to see you here. You came in a little bit late because we're wrapping it up, but I still am glad that you're here. You'll be able to. Oh, that's another thing with the live streams. As a paying member of dailyrenegade.com, again, that is dailyrenegade.com. It's $100 a year or $10 a month. As a paying member, you'll have access to all these live streams, because on YouTube, we're going to have to delete them probably a couple of days after they air. So if you're a paying member, you'll have access to them. So that'll be good. I got you, Josh. Thanks. My main YouTube Gmail. Okay, that's totally fine. Just email me if you have trouble finding Kratom in bulk. Email me. I do have one source, but I haven't advertised him because he also has very low supply, and I haven't wanted to overwhelm him. I told him anytime that he's ready, I will absolutely advertise his company, because he's got a great Kratom company. But he's been dealing with a lot too, just with shipments and things, and he's lost a lot of product in with them being confiscated and stuff like that during shipping. So he just doesn't have the supply, but I can I can help one person out, I'm sure. So yeah, just Josh Peck Disclosure at gmail.com, and or just message me on Facebook. That would be fine too, and let me know if you can't find it in bulk on what's available on dailyrenegade.com, and I'll hook you up. I'll help you out. All right, XWow Gamer Girl saying, I'll catch up. Just saw you on Gons and Basil. Oh, awesome! Yeah, that was a fun episode. Glad you were able to check it out. All right, well, I think we're good. I think we can call it good there. I'm not seeing any more questions, and that's fine. I had a great time fellowshipping with you guys today. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for sticking through with all the buffering problems. Hopefully we'll be able to figure that out. I'm going to look at the settings when we're done here and see if there's something we can do to kind of lower the payload. And I'm looking forward to the next live stream. No clue what we'll talk about, but I think this one was good, and I'm really glad that you were able to join me. Once again, dailyrenegade.com, become a member today. And I guess all that being said, you can follow me on all my social media. All that being said, thank you so much. Hope you have a blessed week, and I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. Love you all. Take care, and God bless.